Human history is not a straight line of progress. It's a graveyard of forgotten dreams, buried cities, and vanished empires. And what makes it even more terrifying is that most of these civilizations didn't fall with loud explosions or dramatic final battles. They simply faded away, swallowed by time, erased by nature, or destroyed by their own mistakes, leaving behind only broken stones and unanswered questions. And if you think this is just ancient history, think again, because the pattern that destroyed them is still alive today, and it might be coming for us too. But to understand that, we have to go back to a time before writing, before metal tools, before kings and armies, to a place that shouldn't even exist according to everything we thought we knew about early humans. Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, a massive stone complex built over 12,000 years ago by people we once believed were nothing more than simple hunter-gatherers. Yet they carved gigantic pillars, arranged them in precise circles, and decorated them with animal symbols, suggesting complex rituals, organized labor, and a deep spiritual system. And then, for reasons we still don't understand, they buried the entire site on purpose, layer by layer, as if trying to hide it from the future. And the question that haunts archaeologists is simple but disturbing. What were they afraid of? Was it a flood, a climate disaster, or something so dangerous they didn't want future generations to find it? And this is where the story of lost civilizations truly begins. Because once you realize that advanced societies existed long before our history books begin, you also realize that many chapters of human civilization have already been erased, and one of the greatest erased chapters belongs to the Indus Valley Civilization, a massive urban society that flourished over 4,500 years ago across modern-day Pakistan and India, with cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa built on perfect grid systems, advanced drainage networks, standardized bricks, and peaceful layouts with no obvious signs of kings, palaces, or massive armies, suggesting a society that valued organization over domination. Yet around 1900 BCE, these cities were abandoned, not burned, not conquered, just left behind. As rivers changed course, monsoon patterns shifted, and agriculture collapsed, forcing millions to migrate. But the real tragedy is that we still can't fully read their language, meaning their final message to humanity remains locked in stone seals and broken tablets, silent witnesses to a civilization that once ruled the region and then vanished without a voice. And while the Indus people disappeared quietly, other civilizations collapsed in chaos, like the mighty Maya of Central America, masters of astronomy, mathematics, architecture, and calendar systems, so precise they could predict eclipses centuries in advance. Yet their great jungle cities, like Tikal, Kopan, and Palenque, were gradually abandoned between 800 and 900 CE, not because of foreign invaders, but due to a deadly mix of drought, overpopulation, deforestation, and endless internal wars. And imagine living in a world where the rains stop, crops fail, and your gods remain silent, while rival cities attack for the last remaining resources, forcing entire populations to leave behind temples that once touched the sky, disappearing into the jungle, leaving stone pyramids to be reclaimed by vines and roots. And if the jungle can swallow empires, so can the desert, as seen in the mysterious fate of the Nabatean kingdom, whose capital Petra was carved directly into red sandstone cliffs in modern-day Jordan, with advanced water systems that turned desert into paradise, controlling trade routes between Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Yet when trade patterns shifted and earthquakes damaged their infrastructure, Petra slowly faded into obscurity, forgotten by the world for over 1,000 years until a Swiss explorer disguised as a pilgrim rediscovered it in 1812, proving that entire civilizations can vanish simply because the world moves on without them. And speaking of hidden empires, few stories are as haunting as that of Angkor, the heart of the Khmer Empire in Southeast Asia, once the largest city on Earth, with an advanced water management system that controlled rivers, floods, and droughts, feeding over 1 million people. But climate change, prolonged droughts, political instability, and water system failures slowly turned this urban marvel into a ghost city, allowing the jungle to reclaim its temples. And when modern explorers finally reached Angkor, they found massive stone faces staring back through the trees, frozen in time, as if watching humanity repeat the same mistakes. And while jungles and deserts hide cities, oceans bury entire worlds, like the legendary port city of Dwarka, believed by many to be linked to the ancient stories of Lord Krishna, now resting beneath the waves off the coast of India, with underwater ruins showing walls, roads, and structures that suggest a powerful coastal civilization was lost to the sea, possibly due to rising sea levels, earthquakes, or sudden natural disasters, reminding us that no matter how strong our cities seem, nature always has the final say. And this idea becomes even more unsettling when we look at the lost city of Heraclion near Egypt, a major port of the ancient world that sank into the Mediterranean Sea over 1,200 years ago due to earthquakes and soil liquefaction, taking temples, statues, and entire neighborhoods with it until modern technology revealed its remains underwater, proving that history is not just buried in books, it's buried beneath our oceans. And not all lost civilizations were ancient. Some vanished close to modern times, like Cahokia in North America, a massive urban center near present-day St. Louis that thrived between 1050 and 1350 CE, with huge earth pyramids, complex trade networks, and tens of thousands of residents. Why, by the time Europeans arrived, Cahokia was already abandoned, its people gone, its culture erased, leaving behind only silent mounds that hint at a forgotten chapter of American history. And just like Cahokia, the powerful kingdom of Kush in Africa once rivaled Egypt itself, producing black pharaohs, controlling gold trade routes, and building their own pyramids in Nubia. Yet over time, they were overshadowed by Egyptian and Roman narratives, slowly fading from global memory despite shaping an entire region's history. And then there's the most famous lost civilization of all, Atlantis, described by Plato as a technologically advanced empire that vanished in a single night after a catastrophic disaster. And while many dismiss it as a myth, underwater discoveries around Greece, Spain, and even the Caribbean continue to fuel speculation, because human history has a habit of hiding its biggest secrets where we least expect them. And the deeper scientists dig, the more they realize that our timeline of civilization may be incomplete, with advanced societies rising and falling long before recorded history, possibly wiped out by climate shifts, floods, or cosmic events. And what connects all these vanished empires is not just their disappearance, but the warning they leave behind, because most of them were not destroyed by enemies, they were destroyed by their own choices, overuse of resources, environmental damage, political corruption, social inequality, and the belief that our world would last forever. And the scariest part is that modern civilization is following the same pattern, building mega cities, draining rivers, cutting forests, ignoring climate warnings, and trusting technology to save us. Just like the Maya trusted their gods, the Khmer trusted their water systems, and the Indus people trusted their rivers. And history shows us that when nature changes, even the greatest empires collapse, leaving behind ruins, legends, and unanswered questions. And as satellites, drones, and AI uncover more hidden cities beneath forests, deserts, and oceans, we're realizing that human civilization is far older, more complex, and more fragile than we ever imagined, with entire chapters missing from the story we were taught. And the biggest question is no longer how these civilizations vanished, but whether we are next, because one day, thousands of years from now, future explorers may uncover the remains of our cities, our skyscrapers, our technology, and ask the same haunting question we ask today: who were they, and why did they disappear? If Part 1 showed us how entire civilizations vanished without a trace, Part 2 reveals something even more disturbing, that some of these empires didn't just collapse, they were erased, their stories rewritten, their achievements stolen, and their existence buried beneath the narratives of conquerors, because history is not written by the truth, it is written by the survivors. And once you understand that, every ancient ruin starts to feel less like a monument and more like a crime scene. And one of the greatest erased civilizations in human history was the advanced society of the Minoans, who lived on the island of Crete over 3,500 years ago, building massive palaces like Knossos, with complex plumbing, colorful art, and peaceful city layouts that showed little evidence of warfare, suggesting a culture that valued trade, art, and harmony over conquest. Yet around 1600 BCE, a massive volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera unleashed tsunamis, ash clouds, and earthquakes that shattered their world, destroying ports, poisoning farmland, and isolating the island. And while some Minoans survived, their power was never the same, and soon they were absorbed by more aggressive Mycenaean warriors, their language forgotten, their identity blurred, until they became nothing more than a mysterious footnote in Greek history. And if volcanic fire can erase an empire, so can political ambition, as seen in the tragic fate of Carthage, once one of the richest and most powerful trading empires in the Mediterranean, controlling sea routes, building advanced harbors, and challenging Rome itself. But after decades of rivalry, Rome decided that Carthage was too dangerous to exist. So in 146 BCE, Roman forces burned the city to the ground, slaughtered or enslaved its people, and even spread salt on the land, symbolically cursing it forever, ensuring that Carthaginian culture, language, and history disappear under Roman dominance. And what we know about Carthage today mostly comes from its enemies, meaning the true story of this empire may have died with the flames. And just like Carthage, many powerful civilizations were erased not by nature, but by conquest and propaganda, including the sophisticated civilizations of Mesoamerica, such as the Aztecs, who built the massive city of Tenochtitlan on a lake with canals, floating gardens, and towering temples, making it one of the largest cities on Earth in the 1500s. Yet when Spanish conquistadors arrived with guns, steel, and foreign diseases, the empire collapsed in just a few years. Its temples destroyed, its gods replaced, its people forced into a new identity. And while the stones of Tenochtitlan were used to build modern Mexico City, the soul of the Aztec world was buried beneath colonial history. And the same fate awaited the Inca Empire of South America, masters of mountain engineering, road systems, and stone architecture so precise that earthquakes couldn't break them. Yet, a small group of Spanish invaders, combined with disease and internal conflict, shattered the empire, capturing their emperor and dismantling a civilization that once ruled millions. And what makes these stories even more haunting is that these empires didn't just lose wars. They lost their voices, their stories filtered through foreign eyes, their achievements minimized, their identity reshaped to fit someone else's narrative. And this RN wasn't limited to the Americas, because, across Asia, the powerful civilization of the Khitan Liao dynasty once dominated large parts of northern China and Mongolia, developing their own writing system, political structure, and culture. Yet when rival dynasties rose, the Khitan was slowly absorbed, their language forgotten, their history scattered, until only fragments remained. And in Central Asia, the once mighty Sogdian civilization, famous for controlling Silk Road trade routes and spreading culture between East and West, vanished as Islamic empires expanded and new powers took over, leaving behind murals, ruins, and unanswered questions. And while conquerors erased some civilizations, others were destroyed by their own success, like the ancient Mesopotamian cities of Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, which pioneered writing, law, and urban life. Yet their constant wars, environmental damage, and political instability weakened their societies, allowing new powers to rise and old ones to fade. And today, their once glorious cities are little more than dust-covered ruins in Iraq, reminders that even the birthplace of civilization is not immune to collapse. And if you think deserts are unforgiving, wait until you hear about the lost cities of the Sahara, where ancient trade hubs like Garama once thrived, controlling routes across North Africa, building underground irrigation systems that turned desert into farmland. Yet, as climate conditions changed and trade routes shifted, the cities were abandoned, swallowed by sand, leaving behind ghostly ruins hidden beneath endless dunes. And the deeper scientists explore, the more they realize that the Sahara was once green, full of rivers, lakes, and thriving communities, proving that environmental change doesn't just destroy cities, it rewrites entire maps of human history. And this brings us to one of the most chilling truths of all, that climate has been humanity's most powerful enemy, not armies, not weapons, not kings, because time and time again, shifts in temperature, rainfall, and sea levels have wiped out civilizations that believed they were untouchable. From the Norse settlers in Greenland who vanished when the climate cooled, to the ancestral Pueblones of the American Southwest who abandoned their cliff cities during prolonged droughts, leaving behind stone homes carved into canyon walls, silent and empty, as if the people simply walked away from their lives. And when we look at these ruins today, we don't just see architecture, we see desperation, survival, and the final chapters of forgotten stories. And yet, not all lost civilizations disappeared in chaos. Some faded quietly, like the ancient civilization of Dilmun, once a major trade hub between Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley, mentioned in Sumerian texts as a land of wealth and paradise. Yet over time, shifting trade routes and political changes reduced Dilmun to obscurity. its ports abandoned, its influence forgotten, until only archaeological traces remained, and this quiet disappearance is often more haunting than violent destruction, because it reminds us how easily greatness can slip into silence. And then there are the civilizations that may have existed far earlier than we ever imagined, buried beneath layers of time like the submerged structures near Yonaguni in Japan, which some believe could be the remains of an ancient, lost city, carved into stone before recorded history, though scientists still debate whether it's natural or man-made. But the mystery itself reveals something powerful, that our understanding of the past is still incomplete, and there may be entire civilizations we haven't even discovered yet. And as technology improves, satellites are uncovering hidden cities in the Amazon rainforest, revealing that what we once thought was untouched wilderness was actually home to large organized societies with roads, farms, and urban centers, proving that human civilization was far more widespread and advanced than we were taught. And this discovery forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth, that history is not a finished story, it's an unfinished puzzle with missing pieces scattered across the planet, waiting to be uncovered, and the more pieces we find, the clearer the pattern becomes. Civilizations rise, they grow powerful, they exploit their environment, they face internal conflict, and then something changes. The climate shifts, resources run out, enemies arrive or leaders fail, and the system collapses, leaving behind ruins, legends, and warnings for the future. And this is where the story stops being about the past and starts being about us, because modern civilization is following the same path, building massive cities, draining rivers, cutting forests, polluting oceans, and assuming technology will save us, just like ancient civilizations trusted their gods, their kings, or their engineering. And the terrifying truth is that no empire in history believed it would fall, until it did. And one day our skyscrapers may become ruins, our digital records may vanish, and future explorers may uncover our world the same way we uncover theirs, asking the same haunting question: how did something so powerful disappear? And that is the real lesson of lost civilizations. Not that they failed, but that they were human, and humanity's greatest strength, its ability to build, is also its greatest weakness, because everything we create is temporary, and the only thing that lasts forever is the mystery of what came before us, and the silence of what remains after we're gone.